Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're Khan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Dauntless, and today we're going to be talking about the hammer. Now, this is the weapon that you want to bring in case you just want to crack some Behemoth Skull, because that is its main purpose. You apply it directly to the Behemoth's forehead repeatedly and relentlessly until it cracks open like a coconut. And when that happens, the Behemoth is going to fall over, and you can then decide what you want to do next. Maybe you want to hit on its head a little bit more because, you know, some Behemoths have thicker skulls than others, or maybe you want to break its legs for parts. The one thing that unfortunately you cannot do is chop a Behemoth's tail. However, you can still beat on its tail until the point where the Behemoth will wish that you had chopped it off, like he's going to be looking at you and like, dude, look at what you've done to this. Like, I can't even do anything with this appendage anymore. It's just this useless floppy appendage now. At least chop it off. Have some decency, man. Anyway, let's talk about the basic attacks of the hammer. So when you first get the hammer, your basic attack is going to look a little bit something like this. This is from a neutral position. What does this mean? It means I didn't put any directional input whatsoever, and this is the combo that you want to aim for most of the time. So that means do not press any direction on your analog stick if you're in a controller, or do not press any of your WASD keys while you're inputting the attack commands, and you should get this. The reason why this particular attack is, in my opinion, better than the others is because this attack can hit more than once, therefore allowing you to deal that stagger damage more than once, therefore allowing you to achieve cracked coconut status a little bit earlier than some of the other attacks. But either way, there's also two different combos that you can also do with the hammer. One of those is if you do apply a direction to your attacks, you're going to get this combo. Again, it is going to be 3 moves. And if you do one attack from neutral and then input a direction, you're going to get this. Okay, these are your 3 basic combos. Like I said, at start, just try to go for this. And then as you learn more about the game, you can start figuring out what to do with the other ones, okay? Now, your secondary attack is going to be the concussive salvo. This is going to change as you progress through the hammer mastery. But for now, let's focus on the concussive salvo. It is a shotgun blast to the monster's face. Now, if you direct your attention to the top left-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that we used 1 ammunition from the hammer. The other thing that you'll notice is if you equip the hammer before, you're going to be like, wait a minute, whoa. You have 6 ammunition on your hammer. I only have 4. I know. You're going to get a mod later down the line that is going to allow you to have 6 ammunition on your hammer as well. For now, if you only have 4, work with 4. It's fine. Don't worry. It's not the end of the world. This is not game breaking in any way. It just means that you have something to look forward to as you level up your hammer mastery. Anyway, as you fire, you'll notice that there's also a reload button, which is going to differ whether you're using keyboard and mouse or controller. Naturally, I don't know what the keyboard input is. I've always played this with a controller. So in my case, it is the right shoulder button if you're using an Xbox, or R1 if you're using PS4. That allows you to reload. Now, the cool thing about this reload is those of you that potentially have played Gears of War will notice that there appears to be some kind of an active reload system in there. So let's spend some of this ammunition. And if you guys notice, you can press the reload button twice, and if you time it correctly, you'll be able to hit it as the little reload thingy is in the middle of the bar, like so. And if you get it like that, your reload is done faster. So that's something that you most definitely want to aim for whenever you are reloading your hammer. Make sure to try and hit the active reload properly, because that is going to reload faster. That means less downtime for you while you are reloading, and instead more time applying the hammer to the Behemoth's forehead, like I told you. Remember, cracked coconut and all that? Okay, keep that in mind. Practice that. If you struggle with the thing, practice the timing, practice it, just get it done. Now, the thing about this particular attack is that it is actually not that useful. You can use it to boop the monsters, but to be honest, there's a better way of booping. As I was editing the video, I noticed that I forgot to mention one thing, and that is the fact that you can load all of the ammunition from the hammer into one big concussive salvo shot if you really want to. But at the same time, the reason why I forgot to mention this particular move is the fact that it's just not that useful in my personal experience. Like, you can even load it up and then dodge at the very last second to like get a fully charged salvo shot, but the timing is tricky. It almost makes me believe that this might just be a glitch and that it's not intended for you to do. But either way, as you can see, I was able to load like 5 ammunition into that shot, and then you can run around with a fully charged hammer and then go up to the monster and then load on his face. But even still, I don't find this move to be that particularly effective, and especially it still doesn't compare to the overall usefulness that you are bringing to the table when you bring the mighty Landbreaker Landbreaker instead of concussive salvo, which, by the way, if you do use this charge type shot with the Mighty Landbreaker, which is a special that I will mention further in the video, the only thing that's really going to do is that it's going to allow more people to pick up the Mighty Landbreaker buff. Again, I'll talk about the Mighty Landbreaker further in the video. I just wanted to explain that you can charge all of the ammunition into the hammer for a greater effect, but in the case of concussive salvo, it's not super useful. However, in the case of Mighty Landbreaker, it will be, because it will allow you to give the buff to everyone in your team. If you guys don't know what booping is all about, certain monsters will do attacks against you, and they will show these lines on top of their heads. When the monster has the lines on top of their heads, he's doing, I think it's called an unstable attack. I don't actually know. But either way, when he does that, what you want to do with the hammer is you want to position yourself right in the monster's path. And you're like, wait a minute, the monster's charging. Why would I put myself in its path? Because you're going to stop him. You're going to boop him in the snoot. Okay? And the way that you do that is you put yourself in the position, you hope that you get the right timing, and you press your secondary fire button twice. And you get this. It's going to propel you backwards, which usually means you're going to be safe. Again, if you time it correctly, it's going to take a bit of practice. And as it propels you backwards, it also fires twice. And if you're able to hit the behemoth in the face with one of those two shots, he is going to get booped, he's going to fall over, and you're going to be able to go there and beat him in the head. Because that's what you do with the hammer. You apply the hammer to the behemoth's forehead. Okay? So that's how you boop. You might need a bit of practice with that one, but trust me, you'll be able to do it. Some behemoths don't work like that. You'll figure that out as you play more of the game. But either way, so you're not really going to be shooting behemoths in the face with this particular attack because it's not super effective. You're better off smacking them in the head with the hammer. So now you guys are wondering, well, what's that secondary fire for then? Well, you got this other thing, which is called primed attacks. Now, the way primed attacks work is basically if you press your secondary fire button immediately after you press your attack button, you get that. Now that is going to be a more powerful attack. It is going to deal more damage. It's going to deal more stagger damage. You're basically priming your hammer with the ammunition before blasting it into the monster's face. And that is going to be something that you want to do often. Now, in a perfect world, you would prime all of your attacks in the middle of the action, like so. And this would deal a lot of damage, but unfortunately it also consumes your stamina. I don't know if you guys paid attention while that was happening. Let me show you again. Pay attention to the stamina gauge on the top left hand side. As you can see, that consumes your stamina. And right now we're standing still, we're not running, we're not getting hit, there's nothing really happening, so it might seem, oh, it's just a little bit, it's not the end of the world, I could totally prime all of my attacks. No. While they're in the middle of the fight, you will notice that that is not going to be the case. In an ideal world where you have infinite stamina, you would prime every single one of your attacks to deal the most possible damage onto the behemoth, and it would be awesome. But in an actual practicality, you're not going to be able to pull it off. Just try it out every now and then. Just experiment with it. Like, don't stress about priming every single attack, because if you want to achieve perfection, you're going to be like, dude, I don't want to play the hammer. It's too complicated, too many buttons to press, okay? Just wing it, okay? Just go in there, try smacking it on the head until you get it right, and eventually you will get it right. It just takes a little bit of practice. Now, beyond that, there is something else that you can do, which is there's a different way to reload your hammer. You can reload your hammer at the end of any swing. Like so, by pressing the reload button at the end of a swing. Any of the swings can do this. So for instance, I can go reload, reload, reload. So again, it takes timing. And again, if you're able to pull that off combined with priming, you would get something a little bit like this. Okay? So you see that? We primed all three attacks and we reloaded all three attacks, so we kept our ammunition. Unfortunately, keeping tabs on all of that stuff in the middle of the action is a complete nightmare. So like I said, in an ideal world where your stamina is infinite and you have all the time in the world to think about all these different combinations, this is what you'd be doing. But naturally, we don't really live in an ideal world. Like, even during this tutorial, I made some mistakes and wasn't able to pull it off super cleanly, but that doesn't matter. So long as you're having fun, so long as you're trying it out, and so long as you keep an eye on your stamina, because you always want to keep enough stamina to dodge from the monster. Okay, so always keep that stuff in mind. Now, another thing that you can do is a jumping attack with the hammer. Now, the way that you do the jumping attack with the hammer is you run, which is actually something that I advise you not to do often unless you're trying to pull this off. Usually when your weapon is drawn, try to avoid running as much as possible so that you can maintain your stamina. But anyway, if you run with your hammer out and then you press your secondary attack button, there's going to be a jump. Now, pay attention to one thing, okay? If you spam the button, you're going to fire twice. It's going to propel you forward, a little bit more forward, but it is not going to allow you to follow up with an attack. Whereas if you only do it once, you can follow it up with your attack button. Bam. And this is really good to position yourself to hit behemoths in the head. It's just a very good gap closer that you have with the hammer, giving you a little bit of agility. So make sure to use it whenever you can, okay? Just keep in mind, if you press it twice, you're going to get this, and you're not going to be able to do the attack off of that because that is considered a defensive move. Okay? So that's the hammer's jumping attack. You can follow from the jumping attack into any of the other 3 combos we talked about. So you can do this, this, and then go into this combo. Or you can go into any one of the other combos that I showed you guys. Like so. Bam, bam, bam. Bam. Do try to figure out how many hits each of the combo has, because that is going to be important as we move forward. Because now that you know how to do combos, you know how to do the jumping attack, we're going to introduce a couple of more mechanics. So the first one is the evasive thing that I told you guys that you can use to boop. You can do this in any direction, okay? You can do it backwards if you don't input any direction, or you can do it towards the right, or you can do it towards the left. Any direction that you want, any direction that you can input, you can go in that direction when you press your secondary fire button twice. This is an evasive move. Usually I don't tend to use it all that often unless I'm booping, so I wouldn't really focus on it too much. But finally, we're going to be talking about the combo finisher. So if you finish a combo and you press your secondary attack button, you're going to get something really, really cool. So here's your basic combo, and then at the end of it, bam! With that nice little shockwave. Now, anyone who's played Monster Hunter World before will be like, it looks a lot like a charge blade. That's because that's exactly how it works. Okay? If you're able to press that button at the end of any combo, so that means also if you do this one, 1, 2, 3, into the secondary fire, bam! That's going to deal a lot of damage. That's going to be pretty good. Just remember that the number of explosions is going to vary depending on how much ammunition you have in the hammer at the end. So like this, we're only going to get 2 blasts, which is going to be significantly less damage than the other hits. See? So depending on the number of ammunition that you have on the hammer, you're going to get bigger or smaller explosions. Keep that in mind. Another important thing is when you are doing this attack, clearly you're going to want to hit the monster. And if you are able to hit the monster, what is going to happen is you are going to, for starters, deal a crap ton of damage, but to top it off, it is going to instantly reload all of your ammunition with Aether Charge ammunition. What does that mean? Basically means that your primed attacks are going to deal more damage, or if you do your shots, they're also going to deal more damage because they've been Aether primed by you reloading it on the monster's forehead. This is why you apply it directly on the monster's head. Now, you don't actually have to hit the head to get that to work. You can hit any part of the behemoth and it will Aether charge your ammo. But, you know, just keep that in mind. Okay, so at this point, you guys know all the different hammer combos. You know how to finish the combo with your secondary attack so that you do an Aether Slam, which is the name of that particular move. You know about reloading. You know about the evasive blasts. You know about all of that stuff. So now let's talk about the alternate version of the secondary attack of the hammer, which is called the Mighty Landbreaker. So I'm going to keep it pressed a little bit to show you guys what it looks like. That right there is what the Mighty Landbreaker does. Now, this doesn't actually do any damage to the monster per se. When you do this particular thing, it doesn't do anything to the monster. It just places down that crack in the earth. And what that does is it gives anyone who goes by it a buff. Somewhere between 20% more damage to 40% more damage, I believe, depending on whether or not your files are Aether charged. So right now our files are not Aether charged. You have to actually hit a behemoth with the combo finisher to get the Aether charge. So this is giving us about 20% additional damage. Anyone can pick up that particular buff, and it is pretty damn sweet. It's a pretty good buff, which means Pretty much after you get this alternate, you're never really going to go back to concussive salvo, which is another one of those situations where I wish it was a viable alternative, but it's more like you use concussive salvo until you get Mighty Landbreaker, and then you get Mighty Landbreaker and you never look back. And now you guys are like, but how am I going to boop the monsters if I don't have concussive salvo? Well, if you spam the secondary attack button, you're still going to get the evasive blast, which is what you usually use to boop anyway, so you're golden. It doesn't really matter that you don't have the regular concussive salvo. You can still shoot them like this, and this is enough to boop monsters. As a matter of fact, you can still do the thing where you go off to the sides with the evasive blast, and you can still do the special jumping attack, because at the end of the day the hammer still fires, it just can't do the front firing thing because instead it does this buff. Okay, but do remember, get this buff before you actually go into the fray, and basically you get that buff and you're gold. Now, a cool thing about the way that Mighty Landbreaker works is if you use it at the end of the combo like we did earlier to do the Aether Slam, it will plop down one of these Landbreaker buffs with maximum duration, so any player can come here and get additional damage. And the cool thing about that is that since you're going to be trying to do the Landbreaker finisher anyway, as often as you possibly can, basically you're going to constantly refreshing your own buff without even trying all that much. You don't have to like, oh, I'm running out of the buff, better do Landbreaker, better pick it up, and then better continue attacking. No, usually since you are going for the Aether Slam finish anyway, you're going to be getting this thing refreshed automatically most of the time. So yeah, Mighty Landbreaker, pretty damn beast. Now, when it comes to mods, the first mod that you're going to be getting with the hammer is the weighted crown. Basically, this is going to make it so that your stagger damage is no longer halved when you're attacking the Behemoth's legs, because usually when you attack a Behemoth's legs, you're not dealing as much stagger damage. You equip this one, and you're not going to be penalized for dealing damage to the Behemoth's legs. You're going to do full stagger damage. So as soon as you get this, you'll want to equip it for sure, because you're not going to have any other mod at the time. Then your second one is going to be Impulse Crown. Now, what this one's going to do is whenever you perform an aerial strike, you're going to deal 10% additional damage for 10 seconds. If you score that aerial strike in the Behemoth's head, you're going to deal 20% additional damage. Now, from my experience, I preferred having weighted crown because a lot of times, you know, you'll crack the skull fairly early on, and then you want to actually start cracking legs, so you might want to keep the weighted crown even after you get Impulse Crown, but to be honest, it's completely up to you. If you want to deal more damage, get Impulse Crown, just make sure to aim for the head so that you get that buff, but do remember it's only 10 seconds, whereas this one is passive. It is always active. You're always dealing maximum stagger damage to legs, which is good. And then finally, when you get to, I believe, level 16 Mastery of the Hammer, you're going to get ammo increased to 6, extended clip, and this is pretty much a no-brainer. This is going to be the one that you're going to want to have pretty much moving forward. And now that you know most of the mechanics around the hammer, you're going to be like, okay, time to make my own set, time to get out there, and time to start cracking Behemoth Skulls. What are the skills that I'm going to be needing? Well, my personal recommendation would be go for Overpower, because that is going to make you deal a lot more damage. Overpower is definitely one of the best skills that you can have in the hammer, because you're going to be staggering behemoths quite often, and basically whenever they are staggered, you're going to deal 70% more damage. Not only that, this also counts whenever you break a part, so therefore it's just flat out more damage for you, and as one of the weapons that deals the most stagger damage, you definitely want to get Overpower as one of your main priority skills. Another really good skill is Knockout King. It is going to increase the percentage of your stagger damage, and after you dodge through a behemoth's attack, your next weapon attack is going to deal 100% more stagger damage, so this is just going to enable you to get into that staggered state faster to take advantage of Overpower. Other offensive skills that you can consider in case you don't have these yet, or in case you just want to do something different, could potentially be Rage Hunter or Aether Hunter, depending on the behemoth that you are hunting. You should also try to get a little bit of attack speed. I personally recommend Molten. Try to get Molten on the hammer. The hammer doesn't need as much attack speed as the axe, but having a lot of attack speed is still much better because it allows you to dodge attacks faster. It just, like, this game is very reliant on attack speed with these slower weapons. So either get this or consider, kind of like the axe, getting Aetheric Attunement and Conduit, although that is a little bit too expensive in my book. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt, whether or not that is something that you want to get. And if you feel like you want to get some more defensive skills, to me, the best defensive skill in the game right now is definitely Iceborne. So, you know, maybe you want to get that. And if you get Iceborne, you can also combine it with Rage. There's a lot of possibilities that you have when it comes to doing hammer builds. And it also depends greatly on the type of hammer that you are using. So play around with it. I will probably show you guys my build in a future video, the build that I personally use with the hammer. But for now, that is going to be it. Let me know what you guys think about the hammer in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful to you in any way, hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. If you enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so that you're actually notified when I put out a new video. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.